Good morning, Yasha Allah, all the diaspora. Give thanks to Abba Yahweh in Bahasham Mashiach Yahushai, who's in the Shamayim as our eternal high priest, interceding on our behalf in view of the conditions of life that we are beset by. This is basically for the final phase of his high priestly ministry, dealing with our situation and our needs for cleansing as we go through this period of turmoil with the nations who have been incensed against us and seeking to deter us from our freedom and reparations ordered for us in the scriptures by the Most High and sealed in the Ruach, our kingdom governor. So today I want to share with you on the subject of Lynden, Pindling, and Myles Munroe. So fasten your seatbelts and let's go to it. I want to read for you, in view of that, maybe a few verses of our scripture, premier scripture lesson. Only a couple verses to get you on target with what we are discussing. This is Isaiah chapter 49, verses 8 through 8 through 19, something like that. In any case, read with me a couple verses, verses 8 through 9. You can go through the whole chapter, if you will, and get a deeper appreciation for the prophet's concerns, and the view that the Most High Yahweh is giving him through the vision and the mediation of the word of Abba Yah Mashiach and the spirit of Ruach. So from verse 8 we get, "Thus said Yahweh, in a favorable time I shall answer you, and in the day of deliverance I shall help you. And I guard you and give you a covenant of the people to restore the earth, to cause them to inherit the ruined inheritances, to say to the prisoners, go out. To those who are in darkness, show yourselves. Let them feed on the ways, and let their pasture be on all bare hills." All right. There's a verse Here in verse 14, let me read that too. That says, but Zion says, Yahweh has forsaken me, and Yahweh has forgotten me. So you can go to the rest of the scripture and read it for yourselves. However, we see the concern of the Most High towards our overall condition, Yasha Allah, and the brutalization and destruction wrought upon us for the rebellion of our forefathers and our own rebellion. And we have been praying about and confessing, confessing to Abba Yahweh our faults and our rebellious attitudes towards him, which now we are still in process of seeking forgiveness and cleansing, and committing ourselves to the process of deliverance from God, from Satan and the nations. That's how it is. And in bringing you this video, as we talk about Lynden, Pindling, and Myles, Munroe, I want to show you from the backdrop of the 1960s, when the Pindling government came into power, and I believe it was 1966, somewhere there. There was, in the midst of the politics, I don't know if I got the year right for for the government victory. In any case, by that time of the 1966, I think that's when the money was changed from pounds and shillings and pence to the dollars and cents. But in the midst of that was the continued drive of the fallen Levites, the Haitians. There was a continual drive, an immigration situation that was going on as the fallen Haitian Levites were pouring into the Bahamas under cover of seeking a better life, yes, and seeking, you might say, asylum in the midst of us, in the midst of Banyamin in the Bahamas. Now, at that time, there was a lot of pressure on the Pindling administration. As witnessed by the contribution of one of the PLP ministers in the government, Mr. A. Loftus-Roker, who was staunchly not in favor of the migration of Levi, the Haitians, to the Bahamas. And it was a general sentiment among Bahamians that it was seen as Bahamians in general that this migration pattern of the Haitians was an egregious situation. And the populace began to not be in favor of the influx of the Haitians in our midst. And so we can take the point that Mr. Pindling, as has been noted, was an odd fellow Mason. And this would partly account for his willingness that he tried to shy away from in view of the fact that many Bahamians were not in agreement with allowing this migration pattern that the Haitians, the Levites, the fallen Levites, were continuously pushing on the Bahamian public. And the fact is that it could not, the Bahamian public, Banyamian, were not aware or did not, or was not told or shown the reason behind the influx of the Haitians coming into our midst. And while Mr. Pindling, the Prime Minister, the Premier of the Bahamas then, because he never got the Prime Ministership or the name until later on. He, as it were, undercover, was in agreement with allowing the Levites, the fallen Levites, the Haitians, to come in, migrate into the Bahamas, in a way that was threatening to the Bahamian public. And I now can see that it was the Masonic link, the Masonic Brotherhood link between the Prime Minister and his government with the Haitian or Levites, the Levitical foreign priesthood government. From the Masonic Brotherhood level, this is where the stakes were tied down. And this is what was engendering the impetus towards the Prime Minister's willingness to accommodate and let in the Levites, the Haitians. It was the Brotherhood of the Freemasonic Order that was behind the will to let them come in. And well, of course, beside the humanitarian view that was espoused or being aired, that because the Haitians were people who were suffering so much, and under the cruelty of Papa Doc Duvalier, who, when he came into power in the early 1950s, I think it was said that Papa Doc Duvalier was a Bahamian, this was noised abroad, and as I look on the situation with him being shown to be a Bahamian, it was a little well, how should I say it? It was surprising to me to learn that he was a Bahamian with the name. I still have to look at the name some more. But this was the situation that Papa Doc Duvalier, being a Bahamian, got the presidency in Haiti, and with his Tom, what do you call him, the Tonton Macoute, his dreaded military attaché, they wreaked havoc on the Haitian people. So it's recorded in his story. And I'm still thinking in my mind and trying to find out if that move to make Papa Doc Duvalier president of Haiti was a undercover move in the depths of Satan, in the march towards the Haitian Levitical prime minister we have now, from all the way back there. But indeed, we're able to see now that it was the Masonic link that was perhaps the main drive behind the Pindling government to be agreeable to letting the Haitians into the Bahamas. And as I say again, the Bahamian public, being of the tribe of Banyamyan, who were not fully aware of this, was still in opposition to this free letting in of the Haitians in the midst. And it's in some ways it put a dampening on the enthusiasm of Prime Minister Pindling to appear to openly and without any barriers put up against the influx of the Haitian population, as he had allowed them to come in to his ministry. But because of the aversion to the situation by the public, the so-called Bahamian public, he sought to distance himself from the situation. And so you can imagine in the government, there was dissent to the immigration policies that was allowing this to happen. And then at the same time, we had the situation, well, maybe a little bit later on, we had, as the Bahamians were in the effort or making the effort to seek re-elections or elections, yes, we had the offering of Eldridge and Kathleen Cleaver as leaders in the Black Panther movement and party that were campaigning or setting themselves forward as the Black Panthers to bring in what was called the Vanguard Party, I believe it was, to be in opposition to to actually gain the government So you had the UBP was called the United Bahamian Party that was in hot contest against the Pindling administration. All right, and so there you had this battle going on between the UBP and the now ruling PLP that were inducted by the so-called white Bahamian, if you will, so-called white Bahamian, and that was a catalyst for the formation of the PLP and the Pindling government. So there was a mix-up going on, and the Masonic, the key influence was the Masonic. You see? And then, well, eventually, well, let me add at the time that the Cleavers were considered sympathizers to the communists, all right? And that was one of the key reasons that contributed to their loss of the campaign for the intention to become government in the Bahamas. Now, I might be a little off in what I'm saying here, but I'll let it stand as it is. We did have the situation with the Vanguard and Eldridge and Catherine Cleaver and their people seeking, to get into the government seat in the Bahamas. So with that going or happening, and the Levites, the Haitian Levites, pouring into the Bahamas under the unknown situation with the Masonic ties that was bringing everything together, and including, England was a definite influence through the UBP, the United Bahamian Party. England would have been desirous of the formation of the Pindling government under the aegis of the Masonic order to bring in Black majority, so-called majority rule, with a view to creating a democracy. And the democracy was the hedge that would blindside the people, the Haymans, Banyamian, blindside them to the issues going on, that England was pushing this thing to throw on the Bahamian public this so-called independence issue that they had in mind to promote. And under the guise of democracy, they were pushing this thing, and so as to give the people a view that the UBP were a totalitarian movement that needed to be got rid of. And here it is, they were pushing this democracy that generally the people agreed with, not knowing under the Masonic order, this so-called democracy was the cover that would bring in the independence and shut down the Israelite ties to any hold on Israelitism or the association with the land, the homeland of Yasha Israel. So the UBP, through the Masonic order, were working to secure that angle, to shut down the immigration policies, whatever they would have been at that time, to shut down the ability of Yasha Israelites in diaspora in the Bahamas and from the tribe of Benjamin. They want to shut that down, and so there'll be no contest, if you will, towards regaining entrance into the land of Yasha. So democracy, the democratic view that was being pushed was seen as something grand and worthy by the general populace, because they had no idea of the depths of Satan and what England was doing. In any case, again, it was the Masonic order being ruled by the Marine Kingdom, as Britain was totally influenced by the Marine Kingdom. That's why they got what I call their national hymn, Rule Britannia. Britannia ruled the waves. This is their song. An ode to the Marine Kingdom. This is what they were singing of. Well, we didn't know that at the time. Nobody pointed it out to us. We had no view that they were a Marine Kingdom signatory. And so around that time, when you listen to Brother Myles, who's deceased now, when he gives his view of setting up the BFM, Bahamas Faith Ministries, as an ambassadorial I would use the word ministry for lack of a better term right now, because I'm in hot pursuit, and so I use the Kingdom Embassy signature for Brother Myles, as he spoke for himself and talked about his meeting up with the Prime Minister and sharing his view on how he came into prominence in some ways by having met the Prime Minister and impressing upon the Prime Minister his desire to promote the strength of biblical principles and the idea of of you know, the teachings of the message of the word on the kingdom. And so he remarks of how impressed the then aspiring, well, he was actually premier of the Bahamas then, according to Myles, but he was, well, let's say prime minister. The prime minister, Pindling, was impressed by Myles's vision and his determinative drive, you know, to do this Christian thing, as it would have been viewed, and his willingness to go the distance and promoting decent values for the youth and for the country. And that became an impetus to Myles to push on and upgrade the level of his ministry, which we find out that he got in touch with Mr. Oral Roberts and his administration, Oral Roberts University, and became a student, calling himself in his teachings, general body of teachings, he called himself a student. What was the word he used? In any case, he submitted himself to the what you would call the spiritual authority of Oral Roberts, and so he aligned himself with Oral Roberts and the Christian style of ministry of the scriptures. And fortunately for him, because of his eagerness and willingness to study the scriptures, the Most High showed to him powerful revelations, no doubt. It cannot be argued. It is sad, however, we find that because of his affiliation with Oral Roberts and with the backdrop of the Haitian Levitical presence and their all-out intent on destroying the house of Yahweh with Benjamin as a key well, this is how Benjamin was seen as a key opposition item. Myles was under or included in the target the target item in Benjamin. He became a target item, and with Oral Roberts as his mentor, being an Edomite, he knew exactly what he was doing, and pulled Myles in, and so Myles, being young at the time, you know, and with a drive to serve and to distinguish himself, yes, eventually was allowed himself to be pulled into and under the banner, the covering of Oral Roberts, the Edomite. And what is quite obvious when you check out Myles's teachings, it is obvious in his teachings that he portrays these images of what we call white Jesus and disciples and other white images of Esau as prominent features in his videos. When he discusses high-level politics, in mentioning and dealing with the Romans, he has a high praise for the Romans, as he likened them to a copy of the government in the Shamayim. I mean, that could only have been done under the guidance of Satan, who was originally in the Shamayim and saw how the government was set up. He knew it. And obviously gave it to the Romans that Myles admired. And he talked about it quite vociferously and at length. You go and listen to his videos again and see what I'm talking about. And he had high praise for the Romans, of course. But he never linked the Romans to the Greeks. In a way that would show their close ties as being members of one race, let us say, and others of them who were members of the same clan. Myles missed that. And so when it came right down to it, you look at his, I'll give you a particular video by name to check out. The video is titled, Understanding the Purpose for Your Life. And in this video, I think there may be one or other similar type of videos that he did where he pronounces that he has named his successor. He promotes the idea of succession, and whereby he discussed the issue or the principle of turning over leadership to another or others that followed in the line of his teachings, the teachings that he was allowed to perform and bring forth. But I call you again to look at that in spite of the fact of him because of the depth of knowledge of the transmission of the word he was giving, it brought him back. It brought him back to alignment with his people in the Bahamas. And he calls them, I believe that he cites them as being the greatest people. Apparently, while he was trying to distance himself from them and ingratiate himself with Oral Roberts and the clan of Esau. The study of the scriptures pulled him, or began to really pull him in proper alignment. And so he makes these mention of his people in the Bahamas and elsewhere, Jamaica, Trinidad, he says, Barbados, various names. And it is interesting to me that the mention of these names of places that he cites as part of his heritage, his people, these places come under the geographical the geographical landings of the scattered Yashiralites. In fact, these places in geography, in my view, are lined up with the pentagram. That's how Satan got the Edomites to scatter the house of Yasha and the house of Yasha, of Yehoiada in particular. I mean, directly. It was in the formation of the pentagram that they were scattered. But Myles Munroe situation was, I began to realize that he knew that he was making a serious mistake. But it was the pressure of the Levitical hatred against the tribe of Benjamin, of which Myles was a part, is a part of, and Myles's aversion to the fact that with all the knowledge he possessed, he couldn't get rid of the fact of the beating, the chastisement that came upon his people, that included him. And with all the knowledge that he had gained, the recognition of slavery was putting the pressure on him. And I suppose seeing how freedom driven the Edomites were, he apparently aligned himself with that view, and it was to his demise. So when he was talking about naming his successor, it seemed to me that there were a couple of things going on. That's how it seemed to me. And it may be that he was directed, ordered or directed to take his entourage with him in that final plane ride. That's how it seemed to me. In any case, the oppressor and the enemy had knowledge of his whereabouts and his plans, what he was doing, and so were otherwise able to track him and I think be instrumental in the creation of the storm that sent his plane down. That's how I see it, giving it to you right like that. I call you back to the recognition of the photos of white Jesus and disciples and Esau's people as prominent features in the video presentations of Myles as the representative people that should be followed, even though he was referencing the chosen people under the name of the Most High, whom he also gave recognition to as Black people. So I think it was the influence of the scriptures, the power of the scriptures, and the fact of it's pointing to these people as the chosen that forced out of him the confession of his own heritage that he was denying because the puppet master was pulling his strings. You see, so when you go back now and view his videos, look at the depiction of the people of choice that he puts forth as the leader of society in terms of people entrusted with governing the world authoritatively, as being granted authority and privilege from the Most High to be in that position. And so when I noticed him having talked about himself in relation to the tribes of Yasha Allah, and then he, you know, if he had looked at himself, which I think he did, and his people, he would have seen them as a dark-skinned people. And yet, in his video presentations, at a certain point, he began to show up the Edomites as the chosen and favored people on earth. That was a telling sign for me that he was under supervision and direction from the heathen and from the enemy. And so as I say again in the video, the purpose for his life, or the purpose, understanding the purpose for your life, he makes the announcement, the poignant announcement of successorship. I would guess then that the die had already been cast, that he would be taken down. That's how I see it. That's simply how I see it. And the storm that is blamed for taking down his plane, in my view, was all a part of the contrivances of the fallen one with his people to bring this about. Simply how I see it. And it seemed to be a matter of what we call nature, the storm rising and finally taking the plane down. It's an interesting theory, you might say, and it seemed rather natural the way it happened. But look at the events, and look how many, and the level of achievement of those who were with him, those in the top leadership of the organization. There are two parties involved in the matter, of course, the Most High Yahweh and the opposer, Satan, who is the father of lies and of Oral Roberts and his people who were pulling Myles' strings. And so, again, I give you the video. Understanding the purpose for your life. Go and look at it and see the backdrop of the Edomites portrayed as the leaders to follow, portrayed as the chosen of the Most High to do this leading, in spite of the fact that he knew himself to be of the blacks and the people chosen of the scriptures. So there was a dichotomy going on in his world that became obvious to me when I noticed how the videos were being presented and the timing of them. So you go and do your thing and see. And therefore, in the case of Mr. Pindling and his government, we see the effect of his alignment with the odd fellow Freemasonry. And of course, you know that Levi were Masons. The leadership was Masonic. So that was the link between the Haitians and Mr. Pindling. It was the Masonic again that struck and eventually brought what we call independence in the Bahamas as what was the undergirding proposition, the reasoning, the leading idea for the enslavement of all the tribes of Yasha was Freemasonry. And you see now and understand, I think, the power of the Marine Kingdom in our enslavement, in our struggle. And so now, Yasha Allah, you've been warned that we have these individuals, these entities amongst us, and the Freemasonic identification is the principal stronghold of Satan in the earth. So that was the key factor behind their intimidation tactics, to have you and me be in awe of Freemasonry. You can't speak against them. You can't say nothing about them. It's because they are the principle driving the depths of Satan, as spoken of in the book of Revelation, and dealing with the church of Thyatira. We have that identification of the depths of Satan. The leadership principle is Freemasonry. Until next time, Yashala, we give thanks to the Most High for being able to share this word with you. We pray the Most High keep you and keep the prayers going, because our delivery is on the way. In the name of the Most High, Yahweh, Bahasham Mashiach, who is in the Shamayim and in the high priesthood, having confession on our behalf as we go through now, push through to our freedom, being conducted by the Kingdom Governor, Wa Rabak. Bless you, Yasha Allah. And the Most High keep you, cause his face to shine upon you, lift up the light of his countenance upon you, give you peace, shalom. Until we meet again. Bless you, Yasha Allah. Have a great day.